Want to know the real value of taking charge of your consulting or coaching brand? Well, let me tell you, it's a whole lot more than attracting right clients who are super excited to work with you. It's about instilling trust. Find out why this is the hidden game changer on today's episode of the Consulting Matters podcast. And welcome to the Consulting Matters podcast. This is the show for purpose driven consultants and coaches who are ready to own the power of what they do and position themselves for greater impact and income. I'm your host, Betsy Jordyn, and I am still an ex Disney consultant and consulting business owner, turned business mentor and brand positioning and messaging strategist. You can find out about all the things I do to help my clients turn their expertise, their strengths, their passions into a standout brand and a thriving business that they and their clients love on my website at www.betsyjordyn.com. And don't forget, Jordan is with a Y. So, as consultants and coaches, we know that building trust is the foundation of any relationship, and it is especially true in our work and what we do with our clients. When our clients trust us, they are more vulnerable, they're more open, they're willing to accept feedback, take risks, implement our recommendations, and ultimately leads to them creating meaningful changes in their lives, their careers, their businesses, or their organizations. And without trust, even if we get the gigs, the engagements might fail due to guardedness or lack of commitment. But what if I told you that this type of trusting relationship doesn't begin with our discovery meetings or even our client engagements? It begins with our brand and what we convey at every touch point that doesn't just inform our clients what we do, but it either instills or creates barriers to trust. And it's not just in you, but in themselves and their ability to create the change that they want. Find out why this is with today's guest, Dr. JB Adams. I am super excited to have JB on the show. JB is a seasoned learning and development professional with decades of experience, including at Disney. Ironically, he and I did not meet until after we both left Disney, and we just started working together last year on his brand after he completed his doctorate in business with a dissertation on trust. And so for him, it was time for him to level up his brand positioning and messaging to reflect where he's at now and his refined focus as an executive development strategist. So he's going to tell you all about this experience, which was really powerful. But the other thing about JB that's super cool is that while he was in his program, he got a, let me say that again. The other thing about JB that's super cool is his dissertation was on trust. He has a lot of insight into what creates trust, what stands in the way of trust, and I really wanted to have him on the show for a couple of reasons. So, he has his own experience of leveling up his own brand positioning and messaging, and he's a trust expert. So, without further ado, I'm so excited to have you on the show. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting to finish up your brand positioning and your messaging to have you on the show. So, welcome, JB.
It is a pleasure to be here with you, Betsy Jordyn. It's about time we got this.
I know, right? There's so much to talk about today. I can't wait to get into all of the deep dive on your expertise on trust, but I want to set some context here.
Okay.
So you're a learning and development professional with like a ton of experience. You've had your own business for a while. Can you tell us a little bit more about that background, just to set up context before we take into the journey that you've been on for the past year or so?
I would be happy to do that. And what comes to mind is the realization that when you are a young person and you're trying to figure out who you are and what you want to be when you grow up, it's very different than how you see it as a, fully formed, mature adult. Because what I have sort of realized over this long period of time is I always loved being in a learning environment. I am someone who's endlessly curious. I'm constantly, learning new things, testing my boundaries, trying to stay on top of the trends and changes that are going on. And, that was true for me also as a young person, although as a young person, I did struggle to figure out where do I fit in and how am I adding value. So, becoming a learning and development professional for me started by learning how to just be a teacher. So, I have a degree in agriculture because I was raised on a family farm in rural Illinois. My second degree was in education, and I was going to be a science teacher. And I did do all the study for that and enjoyed it, but my career didn't really start until I joined the Walt Disney Company. I worked for 4 years at Epcot, and then I was in the right place at the right time and got hired to do learning design at Disney University, and that's where I thought, "Aha, this is what I love to do." I love doing learning experiences for adults. I like being present when they have what I like to call the light bulb moment. And this means that I have helped them see themselves and the world in a new way that lets them be more effective. And ever since that time, I have really worked to create learning experiences that help people be more effective.
So we didn't know each other though at Disney, which I think is so interesting because I know our years overlapped, but we never overlapped. So when did you technically leave Disney and start your own business?
I left Disney in 2001 and
Oh,
started
so you
Adams Learning right after that.
so you've been in business longer than I have.
I've been in business for 25 years this year.
Wow. Okay. So you've had Adams Learning for a while, so doing a lot of L&D stuff. And
Mhm.
then several years ago, you decided, I think I'm going to continue my learning journey and go and get a DBA. What like is it just more of the same? Like I just love learning, or is there any other reason that you're like I have to get a doctorate cuz I want a doctorate and everybody and their mother is trying to talk me out of it. So I
There's
don't
a
think
list
you would.
Well, there's a list of reasons. Before I got my doctorate, I got my MBA, and that was because I wanted to speak the language of business. And that helped my career tremendously. And it did make me feel much more comfortable being among business leaders, helping them think through their strategies and my work as a consultant. Getting the DBA was, if you speak to anyone who has gotten their doctorate, they will use the term glutton for punishment. And, that's not far off, really. I am somebody who always wanted a doctorate, just because it was on my bucket list, and because I like a challenge, and I will get restless sometimes in my career, and I'm like, "What can I do that's challenging and will test me?" And so, getting the doctorate in business, a DBA, definitely succeeded at challenging me, but, there were parts of it that I absolutely loved and continue to love applying what I learned.
So you're not gonna be one of those people who sends me the articles. Like, people with doctorates are super passionate about me not getting a doctorate. Like, I get articles from them saying, "Don't do this. It's not worth the money." But you're not gonna be one of those people.
I if you really wanna do it, I would encourage you to do it, and actually, it's funny that you even mention it. It's it's not about the money for me, and actually, I would say throughout my whole career, it's not about the money, it's about, am I doing work that I find satisfying, and am I helping people get better? That's all it ever was.
So where were you at and so we met last year when I did a talk at ICF, Florida. And you were in the audience, so we reconnected there. So we met several years ago. I don't even know how
Yes.
we met all those years ago. And then we reconnected. What was going on that made you decide, like, hey, I think I want to go work on my brand positioning? Like, how far were you from getting your DBA? And what made you decide, like, I really want to work on my brand positioning?
At the time that you and I met, uh, I was sort of freshly minted as a doctor. It's still hard for me to sort of like Dr. Adamson. I don't know. It still feels new to me. But school took about 4 years of my time, and it started during the pandemic. So I often tell people anything that happened during the pandemic and while I was in school, I don't remember if I even interacted with you because there was just so much going on. But I knew that when I graduated with my doctorate, I really found myself saying 2 things. The first thing was find the joy in the work, and the second thing was look for your tribe. So I was like, what's the tribe that I want to join, that I want to be a part of as I embark on this next chapter in my career? And the tribe really was that I had been doing coaching for 10 years. but I was doing it among a bunch of, other projects, in learning design, and I wanted to go all in on coaching because I think coaching out of all the leadership development programs that I have worked in, and I've worked on many, many leadership development programs for many different clients, and it is that the intensity of attention that goes into coaching that I think is the one that makes the real impact on helping people develop their leadership abilities. So that was what kind of why I went back to school. That's specifically what I studied. I knew that I needed a topic that would contribute to this effort. And that's how all of it came together to study trust in leadership and to help leaders apply what I had learned so that they can be more effective and genuinely engender voluntary followership, which is what leadership truly is helping people decide that they want to follow you voluntarily.
So it sounds like you were at an interesting pivot point. So it wasn't even like I just want to take my business, my Adams learning business to the next level. It was like I did all I can here. I've been kind of dabbling around for 10 years in coaching. Found this to be super meaningful and high
Mhm.
impact. And it sounds like you wanted to pivot to a new focus. And ironically, when we worked through your brand positioning, it really melded both of those sides. It wasn't like one side. It was like, one of the things I say all the time, like, when it comes to growing our brand and our business over time, it's like you transcend and include what came before. Like, you don't leave anything out, and it seems like that's a perfect example, is like you transcended what came before, and then it just
Mhm.
got into a new container.
Well, exactly. The way I would describe the whole evolution of my career is bringing all the pieces together. So sort of like even though you couldn't see it until you like put focused effort into it, it sort of feels like, well, this is what I have been building up toward all along.
Mhm.
And perhaps there's something on the other side of this that I haven't anticipated yet. But to bring together my research in trust building, the experience that I have building leadership development, the experience that I have as a coach, um, helps me feel very confident and satisfied that this is the right direction and this is how I'm going to make even more of an impact in people's lives.
So it seems like you had a lot of like clarity of like, I want to bring these pieces together. I know what I want to do. Why did you need to work with someone like me? Like, why wouldn't you just continue working on your own? Like, and just continue down that path? Like, what was it that made you decide, like, I want to invest in this process with this person for this reason?
Well, I can't speak for anyone else. And I don't necessarily want to cast aspersions on anyone else's judgment. But I will tell you that there's a phenomenon, um, in the consulting world and in the leadership world, quite frankly, where a person gets it in their head that they know best. And so prior to the work that you and I did together, I had already built my own website and I know some things about marketing and I could figure it out and I'm smart. But the truth is, when you get to a certain like a plateau, it is an even higher order of leadership for you to admit, "You know what? I don't know what I'm doing." And maybe I would benefit by just surrendering to that idea and asking for some help and getting expertise from somebody who has done it and can do it better than what I can. So it takes a little bit of humility to admit, I'm not the smartest person in the room, and there are other people around me who bring skills that are gonna help me get where I wanna get without, expending the extra effort of just believing that you could do it on your own.
Yeah, I call that "I should already know how to do this" myth. You know,
Yes.
like, we
Yeah.
all have this, "I should already know how to do this," which I think is funny, is that if you are moving into a new level of growth, there's no logical reason why you should already know how to do this because you haven't been there before. But we still believe that it's like, "Well, I should already know how to do this." Like, well, if you already knew how to do this, then you would have already achieved something, like, a long time ago. Like, you're moving into the unknown, so why would you know how to do this? But it is interesting that we all face it, especially consultants and coaches who are used to being in the advisory position
Mhm.
and rather than being on the other side.
Well, I think it's worthwhile to admit when you need a little extra help, because there are many people who go through and they have this attitude of, well, other people figured out how to do it, so I can figure out how to do it. What they may not know is those other people who they think figured out how to do it asked for help. And that's
Mhm.
the little secret is just ask for help and then you can get it done faster and you don't have to, put your brain through a lot of drama.
So let's talk about the experience of working on your brand positioning because there was a lot of different ways that we could have gone and we did a lot of work together. So we worked on your the strategy in deciding which direction you want to go. We worked
Mhm.
on your website copy. We even did the live photo shoot together, which was super fun. Well, I thought it was super fun.
Yes. I
Um,
did too.
so I would love to hear your perspective, like, talk about the experience of working on this and the impact that it has had.
May I reframe the question, Betsy?
You absolutely can. I love when you do that because you
Uh,
were a part of the accelerator that also helped me
yes.
reframe my entire approach. So I love it. You're going to make me better. Go ahead.
Uh, Talk about the experience, not just of the rebranding and repositioning, but the experience of working with Betsy Jordan. I'm gonna make this personal,
Mm.
if you're ready for that.
Should I hide behind my microphone or should I stay
Yes,
like
you
upright?
should, because here it
Okay.
comes.
I should hide.
Uh, yeah. Here's the thing that Betsy Jordan does differently, I suspect, than from anyone else. Because I had, other options that I could pursue. I could have done it by myself. I could have hired other people to help me with my website. So if somebody says, "Oh, you need help with your website? Hire Betsy Jordan." No, it doesn't work that way. You're not just hiring Betsy Jordan to quote unquote help you with your website because you get much more than that. The work that you did with me, and the part of the reason that I enjoyed indulging in it was you went deep. And we didn't just talk about, well, what do you want to do next and who's your target market? We talked about what is motivating you to do this kind of work, what's motivating you to move in this direction, and what are the outcomes that are not just going to help your clients, but are that how you are going to personally benefit. So you challenged me deeply to understand who I am, and that's why I would say working with Betsy Jordan isn't just marketing consulting. It's it's identity work. It's
Mm.
deep.
Wow.
Are you okay? Are you hiding behind your microphone now? Did I overwhelm you?
I feel like you always see me, and you always like mirror me in the way that I feel because I do feel like that's the heart of my work and like why I do what I do is it's never about just like what most like, I don't think of branding the way other people think about branding, and I think it's interesting as I've been unpacking, like, this workbook that I've been working on, which is actually gonna be a book as well, and I have another book after that, but what I'm realize is that it's, like, it's about a purpose level, but really more like what's your divine DNA that's sort of, like, imprinted on you, and calling it forth, like, I don't feel like I do like brand strategy. Like when I looked at my competitors, I'm like, oh, like I don't want to help you build a reputation online. Like that's the last thing I want to do. I want to help you bring your best self forward, in what works for you. But it's like it's bringing that imprint, like who you are at your core, because I believe that that's the most profitable path because that's the path that's meant for you. And I feel like you did. So thank first off, I just want to thank you for seeing seeing the heart of my work. I, like, think that that means a lot to me. I try hard to make my clients feel seen, so it means a lot to get that on the other side, so thank you.
Well, I mean it when I say that that's your differentiator. Um, I'll put it this won't sound good, but I think you know what I mean. Betsy Jordan's not for everyone, and she shouldn't be. Because if you hire Betsy, she's gonna make you go deep. And I'm grateful for the fact that we did go deep because you clarified for me, well, why am I doing this? And is it just to make money as many people would want to treat it as a transaction? Like, oh yeah, I'll come in and I'll help you with your website. You go beyond the transaction. It's a relationship, it's a long-term relationship, and it's built on genuine care, so that I can see actually, you know what? Betsy, I will tell a story. When we were in the photo shoot, and I felt so special that day because I had Gary Hughes acting as, my photographer, and I had Betsy Jordyn acting as my marketing consultant, and the 2 of them got into fights with each other about what I should be doing and how I should be posing and what I should be wearing, and I thought, "You know what? Today, I'm just the talent. I don't have to make any hard decisions." And so I loved that session, but if you recall, afterwards, you and I went out for a drink, and I said to you in the parking lot as we were exiting, I said, "Betsy, thank you for helping me see myself in a new way."
Mhm. I love that story, except Gary and I did not fight with each other.
I know.
We collaborated with energy and passion together. But,
Well,
I really love that I was worried that you're with Gary coming to with you had your photo shoot a little earlier than I wanted. I kinda wish that
yes.
the we got through your visual branding, but what was so great, what I love about this process, like, if you kinda go with, like, what is your intuition saying, is that the intuition that Gary brought to your clothing
Yeah.
and the clothing that you chose to bring really set the tone, and we have, like, the perfect color palette, and I've shown your website to so many different people, and a big driver, which we're gonna get into in a minute about your background in terms of trust. It's like your picture and the image just conveys, like, trust, like, the colors are warm, and it's like it creates that environment, and it's like and even though it didn't go in the exact order that ideally, like, it would be I would
Mhm.
love, but it wound up better than I expected, and I think that's where sometimes, like, you gotta kinda trust, like, if you're gonna go with your purpose, let's just say for sake of argument, we're on a quest to uncover and activate purpose. Then we have to trust that whatever you call it, the God, collective unconscious, whoever's, like, guiding the purpose is going to make everything work out perfectly. And if because we put that strategic intent in the beginning, from the very beginning of our conversation, you were clear, like, I'm at this legacy time. Like, I don't wanna play small. I want this real thing, and even as we wrestled with the decisions, it was still coming back to, like, well, what's the purpose? And, like, trusting your gut. And so it was fine, so that even though it wasn't it was technically out of order from, like, my process, it was perfect order for your process, and we went with it, and it was great. And so we didn't argue. Like, honestly, Gary and I didn't argue, as much as, we were getting to know, like, each other's role. I doubt that Gary typically has a me in the room, and we just did another photo shoot with another client, and we went through the whole thing, but I was a little distracted because I was helping that client and his wife make a logo, but anyway, if it it's like but I knew Gary had an eye, so I kinda keep him now I think of him as, like, he's my go-to photographer for guys. Like, he knows how to make a guy feel really comfortable in front of a camera, and that's a gift. So it's like, let's just
Mhm.
go with it. And I think that's where I think to your earlier point of, like, who's my tribe, is that not who's my tribe of duplicative talents
Mm.
and gifting. It's like, who's my tribe of different talents that I can coalesce and have around me, and
Yeah.
who's best at what they do so I could bring that group together.
It was genuine synergy and collaboration, and that's why and this is not an understatement, I am in your capable hands, which is kind of foreshadowing for where we're going with the rest of our conversation.
I wanna get to the rest of that conversation, but I do want to hit on
Yes?
one key point from your process. Um, where I love that you wound up going with when we wound up framing your offers or actually before we did that, the fundamental direction, because there was 2 different directions that we could have gone in with your business, and it's
Mm.
what's ironic is that they both kinda seem right. So,
Yes?
can we you speak a little bit to the crossroads around, like, do I wanna do executive development cohorts for service-based organizations, or do I wanna do executive coaching for the introverted executive? And how they're both kind of like how this one is a perfect encapsulation of your career, and how this one is still sort of like this dark horse that's probably not going to disappear, but is still gonna find some sort of expression in your overall brand.
Yes, I would say there's still room. for expanding on that, but we were at a crossroads, and I would just add for anyone who's going through this process, if you believe like, "Well, I can do both," then you're like, "Okay, you're not getting it." If you want to, get the momentum in your career, you have to pick a lane. And so there was a period of time when we were going through the process and you said, We're at the fork in the road, but I want you to take both forks and develop both of these, and then that will help clarify which one is the stronger of the two." And so one of them is, as you said, and this is the one that was selected, was executive development in service organizations. And the other lane was to be the executive coach for introverts. And they were both very attractive to me because I am an introvert. I've gotten very comfortable being introverted, comfortable in my own skin, owning it as I go to networking events and stand up and talk in front of people and to say proudly, I am an introvert. But it requires learning of how to navigate through social situations and manage your energy and all of that. And my heart told me it
Oh,
was cohort-based executive development was where I wanted to go. Um, because there was, even though I still attract a lot of introverted people who need and want coaching, and I'm happy to work with them, and we talk about how they can, be the best person that they can be. But at the same time, if you wanna get word around town that you're, doing something new, the introvert network is not great about spreading word of mouth because they don't talk to each other.
that's true. They're not the natural nexus people.
Right. So if there was like the network of introverts, which, you and I could start that group, like we're the network of introverts, and now we're going to do things that are very introvert focused. We would want to, our meetings would be very short. Um, and
No, they'd be one-on-one. I do network. I
it's,
do marketing for an
yes,
introvert.
yes,
It takes a lot for me to go to a networking event, but most of my marketing is for my content, like, that's an introvert strategy.
yeah,
You don't see me I have to work hard to get on LinkedIn, but it's like, you can get other things, but, like, I think that there was more than just this isn't a good network. There was a fitness that brought together both the cohort program. Like, so you have a
hmm,
signature program
yes,
and we also made a strategic decision to not do one-off executive coaching, to really lean into your differentiation, which is a combination of a cohort that has individual and group, and that brought together really more than the introvert for the executive coaching for introverts. It brought together more aspects of your expertise that's unique. It's You're a genius when it comes to learning experiences, and you're a genius when it comes to coaching, and you found a way to bring them both together, but with an existing cohort, which is a differentiation. Not nobody, very few people offer a cohort-based executive development strategy and coaching.
and, it's a differentiator in this regard. I just got done writing my go-to proposal, which I also recommend to everyone as a great way of formulating what you want to put out into the world as you're offering. But the level 1 is, not cohort-based, but it's a sort of retainer-based organization. Bring me in, and I'll coach 5 to 10 of your leaders as individuals, and they'll all be on their own pace. What's missing from that level 1, which is offered in the second level, is when you have a cohort, those leaders are now going through a very coaching could be considered an adverse situation because you're asking people to raise their awareness and set goals and make changes and get feedback from their environment. If you can do that as a cohort, those people are going through this adversity together. Adversity
Yeah.
kind of naturally bonds people together. We're going through this experience, we're sharing it. It's arduous, it's challenging, but we're here to support each other and help each other. And the reason that I get excited about that model is, I was just describing this last night to some colleagues. This is culture building. So if you care about the culture of your organization, you care about the future, that it be sustained and that people continue to prioritize the values of the organization, this cohort model is going to take a collection of leaders and elevate them to be acutely aware of how they are contributing to the culture. And it also serves the purpose of the fact that the coach disappears at the end, like, bye bye. You're on your own now, but these people are now bonded with each other. And as a
Yeah.
result of that, they continue to go to each other for help and support and all the things that make a strong culture of leaders who are on the same page.
And it feels like you must be intentionally through your design, because I saw how you contributed to the Impact and Income Accelerator that you're part of, is, giving me the feedback on how to intentionally set the conditions for the relationships to be developed. So it's not like it's just by accident. Like, I could have just had, here's my one-on-one stuff that I do with my clients over here. Here's this other program that I'm doing with the Impact and Income Accelerator, but it was because of you suggesting, like, how that group could run to forge the connections, created a bridge in some ways to the individual work I was doing with everybody as at a collective, and where the relationships became as important with each other as the content was, which is important when you think about a growing organization. Is what's the number one challenge when companies to get to a certain level, is silos. Like, you're sidestepping silos, which
Mhm.
I don't know if we have it in your copy. We should probably put it in there, is we're gonna sidestep the silo situation that's coming later in your next phase of growth. We're going to sidestep it because you built that cohort.
Exactly. Yeah, it's letting people acknowledge that. Somebody said this to me years ago, and I think it's really true. Everybody's just making it up as they go, but people don't like to admit that they're making it up as they go. So when you bring people together who have to be vulnerable in front of each other and admit, like, well, I've never done this before. I'm doing it for the first time. It's really hard, but I'm going to figure it out. And it's that attitude of, we're going to figure it out, even if we have to figure it out together. There might be trial and error. There might be times when you feel like, "Oh, what I did didn't work. Try something else." And
Uh-huh.
know that you're surrounded by people who are sharing that same attitude of, "We're gonna figure it out." And that is the kind of thing that sustains leadership, because in some respects, leadership is really just about problem solving. And, there's always gonna be a new set of problems that need to be solved, so we have to stay focused on just moving forward.
I wish that everybody had a different vision. If this was more the view of how do you go about success? Because I think we think, well, here's me, here's success. It's a
Mm.
straight line. And I always talk about, like, the forward movement is more like an ice skater. You go side to side. Like, that's how you move forward. Like, you put something out there, see how people respond. Or when we work on branding, you put something out there, see how the market responds, and you pivot. Like, it's not like you have to get it right the first time. And I think in any journey towards what you want, it's never going to be a straight shot. If that's the case, then what's the point? Like, then there's, like, you can't bypass the side to side. That's where all the learning is.
Well, I completely agree, and we could have a debate on what the word how the word success is defined, but however you define the word success, it is a constant set of course corrections, because the thing that made you successful last year is not the thing that it's gonna make you successful this year or next year, because the environment around us is going to constantly be changing. So we have to be able to adapt and adjust and do whatever it takes.
That's awesome. I want to keep talking about this, but I want to talk about your expertise around trust. And I
Okay.
want to apply it particularly to the world of branding. So, for those of you who are listening, you all probably have heard my weird excitement about my whole skin cancer journey because of what I learned about branding. So, for those who don't know about the story, here's what's happened. Like, so somewhere back in December-ish, early December, I got diagnosed with skin cancer. So my dermatologist gave me the name of this plastic surgeon, because my dermatologist is like, "I'm not touching it. It's on your face, and I'm really worried, so I'm gonna send you to this plastic surgeon." So I get to the plastic surgeon, who's in a janky part of Orlando, no website, nothing that I could really find. Go in there, I have my questions ready for this guy, and he's like, "Oh, no, 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 we can't talk about that. I we need to talk about your diagnosis." And he's like, "I had to go look it up because I don't know what your diagnosis even is." It was like, "It could be this, and it could be this, it could be that. I don't know." I'm like, "Well, can you fix it? Or, what are you gonna do?" He's like, "I don't know how big it's gonna be. I don't know how big of a scar. I might have to, like, grab some fat out of your ass and put it in your face." And it's like, "Oh my god." And he's like, "You should go to this cancer center." um, in Tampa and see if they have non-surgical options because I'm terrified to touch your face. And I'm like, I am like beside myself. Like, this is all so scary. I don't know what to do. So I go back to my dermatologist and they had no referrals and they're like, forget it, go to your primary. I'm like, ugh. And so I'm like, I need a new dermatologist. I need somebody overall. So a friend of mine suggested, like, I'm like, I need a dermatologist. And he's like, hey, I think I have somebody who might do something with whatever you have. And so I go to their website and I get on their website and all the magic words are all there. Experts in skincare, skin cancer cure and recovery. Experts. I'm like, they solve my problem. Like, they have my problem, and then I kept reading, and they have, like, all these other, like, things. Besides all the trust symbols and all the other stuff, they have a whole page on my surgery that I needed, and then they had all these things like, "You're gonna get your cancer gone, and you're gonna like how you look afterwards." I'm like, "Oh, this is great." Like, everything about it was so wonderful, and all of a sudden, like, all this anxiety had dissipated by finding this surgeon. All of this stuff that I was spending emotional energy and time, like, "Oh my gosh, my face, I'm gonna be disfigured," and all of these worst case scenarios because I didn't have anybody immediately, like, just in like, even before I went to the office, and then I went to the office, and this doctor I was already, like, calm, and this doctor was awesome. He's like he gave me shorthand and initials for whatever. He didn't have to, like, go look it up. He's like, "Here's the strategy, here's the plan, we're gonna go do this, then this is gonna happen." My daughter came in town to keep me company during the whole thing. She's like, "Oh, mom, you were so in control. You were like, handled it with such grace." And I'm like, "That's because I trusted this
Mhm.
doctor in every touch point." And so, like, I've been, like, on this, like, major passion. By the way, for anybody listening in Orlando, night dermatology,
Yeah.
Dr. Dowd is the best. Without a doubt, the best. He's called me twice to tell me, for follow-up. Personally, he called me to follow up with me. He's the best. But anyway, my whole point of this is, like, I was sitting there, like, during the surgery, I'm like, I am calm because I trust him, because his breathing made me trust him. So I'm, like, sitting there, I'm like, I gotta figure out, why is this? What was it about? Like, because I started to realize, like, branding is not about just this marketing thing. It's not this online reputation management. It's about purpose that we talked about, but I think at a deeper level, it's about instilling trust. And it wasn't just like I have trust in the provider, it's that I have trust in this whole thing. Like, I was, like, just looking up options, like, can I just not deal with this? Like, is there any other option for me just to ignore the cancer? What are my risks of ignoring it? Because I wasn't even wanting to deal with it. But then I found this person, and it's not like my scar's gone away, but I felt trust. Why? Why? As the expert in trust with the dissertation in trust, why is branding not just about purpose? Why is it about trust? Why is our messages about trust?
All right. Well, I'm going to ask you a series of questions about your experience based on what you just said. The first doctor did not make you feel safe. Is that true?
For if I had a podcast where I had more swears, I would say for F. No, I would use expletives. No, no, no. I felt so unsafe. He
Y-
terrified me.
Yes, terrified it would be the word we would use to describe how you felt in that experience. And then you actually, I think, went back to your dermatologist who also did not make you feel safe.
Mm-mm.
All right, and then you found what was his name again? Say the name again. Dr. Dowd?
Dr. Dowd of Night
Dr. Dowd.
Dermatology.
Dr. Dowd made you feel safe.
Long
Is
before I met him.
even
Like,
before you met him.
Dr. Knight, whoever Dr. Knight is, whatever he put on his website, I wasn't even initially with I didn't even know who Dr. Dowd was, but the whole Night Dermatology made me feel safe from the get-go because they
Okay.
had these magic words on their website. So I felt it even before I met Dr. Dowd. Then when I met Dr. Dowd, he fulfilled what I had expectations of because of the website, and then he exceeded it.
All right. So I want to sort of uh, put a lens on top of what you just described. Trust is built through a series of touch points. It's not just one or the first one, even though those can be very powerful. But the first impression that Night Dermatology made was one to get you to relax and say, okay, they're experts. So if we talk about all the touch points, which included the website, included the office visit, included the surgery, included the follow-ups through all of these touch points, there's three areas in which you can build trust. The first one is ability. So the statement that I would say to you is, I believe that this person is the right person for the job. What were the touch points that contributed to that sensation for you?
Number 1, they specialized not because I coulda gone to a plastic surgeon who specialized anything plastic surgeon related, or dermatology where anything dermatology related, but they claimed the space that was the relevant to my problem, skin cancer cure and recovery, and it wasn't
Mhm.
about skin cancer cure. They put on their skin cancer cure and recovery, and then they put the word experts in, which is what I would have been looking for. Now other people 'cause that's what I was looking for. I'm like, "Who's the best? I just need to know who's the best. I don't care. Just who's the best in this area." And that was, like, what I needed for my problem. Like, if it was a different problem, I might have said, like, personalized or something, like, but I didn't need personalized. I needed an expert in both of those things, and they had it right there. It was all the magic words. And then on other pages, it had the magic words, like, "You're gonna love the result," because that was what I started to get scared about is like, I didn't think I was gonna d I was confident I was not gonna die from the I didn't think this skin cancer was lethal, but
Mhm.
it's right between my eyebrows. I'm like, I can't wear a hat, I can't even get bangs, like, I didn't wanna be disfigured, and so that was my fear, and so that was the touch point, and then the rest of the like, then they had a whole bunch of other things that made the office more professional, like, they had all of their registration stuff online. Like, I went to another dermatologist in between, hour-long wait in the waiting room, tons of paper. They couldn't get my insurance verified, for an hour. Night dermatology took care of all of that beforehand, and everything was online before I even got there, so I don't have any paperwork when I got there. But the biggest thing is I saw that they specialize in what I do. What I needed, which is what I try to help my clients do is, pick your lane of expertise. Like, it's gonna be relevant from your background because people don't wanna just talk to anybody. They wanna I think it builds trust that people specialize in certain things.
Exactly. And this is my interpretation of what I heard. The first impression was that they were experts and they were providing what you needed, but then the subsequent touch points, excuse me, but then the subsequent touch points reinforced that perception that they are competent and know what they're doing. Is that fair to say?
Mm. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. If you're ready, we'll move on to the second area in which trust is built. So
Yeah,
the
so the
statement that
first
comes to
one
mind
is
is
so it's
ability.
ability. Okay, I'm gonna write
Yeah,
it down.
or
Continue.
competence. Yeah, so you are the right person for the job. I believe that this person is the right person for the job. The second area is integrity, and the statement that goes along with that is, I believe that this person tells the truth and keeps their promises. Where in the touch points did you have a sense of integrity?
When he said that, um so my previous said, "Well, I guess we can kinda do a punch biopsy and we'll see what happens." Like, that might give us more information, but I don't know, you still have to get it done. This guy is like, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a punch biopsy." So I had the same procedure, so I can know exactly what's going on so that I can create a very specific treatment plan for your day of surgery, so I could take the minimal margins as possible, given that. So I want more information. So he explained it wasn't like he explained why he needed it. So I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't even, before I'm like, I don't know if I want a punch biopsy. It's like, what is it, more damage to my face? I don't know.
Mhm.
He's like, here's why I'm doing it. So there was something about, and then here's the other thing is the day of the surgery, the biopsy results weren't back yet. So he was like, "Okay, so here's what I could do. I could do a little bit and hope for the best, or we can wait a few hours until we get this because I really want to do it this way because I want to get you to the outcome."
Mhm. All of that is instilling in you a sense of confidence because you believe that this physician is telling you the truth and is gonna make a promise and keep it.
Yes.
And that's contributing to your sense of safety.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to the 3rd area,
Okay.
which is what I think based on what I've heard you say, this might be a further differentiator in contributing to trust. The 3rd area is benevolence. And this is
Uh,
kind of the personal side of the relationship. So the statement that goes along with this is, I believe that this person can do good things for me. Alternatively, we could just say it is, I like this person. So, did this physician do something on a personal level to just get to know you or show care toward you?
he called me personally. And then when I was asking him about, like, my aftercare, I'm like, "There was something I didn't understand. Where do I get this?" He, like, texted me what I needed. I think when you talk about this benevolence, it feels like it's like I believe that this person has my best interest at heart. You
Yeah,
know, like
yeah.
that like this is what like whatever we're doing here. I think throughout the whole thing he gave and also he gave me relevant examples when I was like how long it's going to be. He's like, "Oh, well, I work with cuz I'm like, I do podcasts and stuff. That's a big part of my business." And he's like, "I got a TV anchor on the air within a couple weeks." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So he gave me a relevant example. It's not like I'm trying to be like this beauty queen or something, but it's like, I got her back on the air and, she felt confident. I'm like, "Okay, cool." But he listened, and I think it was like and then while we were doing the surgery, I asked him why he chose this of all things to specialize in. And, it was interesting hearing his story. Like he likes to, he compared it to this kind of surgery compared to plastic surgery is that, plastic surgery, people wanna walk away kind of feeling like, "Oh, it's an obvious difference." He feels like with
Mm,
these kind of surgeries, you walk away and nobody noticed anything ever happened.
right.
I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I want." Like, it's not like I'm trying to get something different. He just had all the magic words, he knew what he was doing.
All right, that's excellent. And so that kind of he hit all 3 of these areas of trust building with you. But I wanna bring it back to what this means from a marketing perspective. As a result of the safety that you felt, the confidence that you felt, the trust that you felt in this physician and the whole team working there, you were willing to do something different. What were you willing to do because of the feelings that were engendered in you?
Um, I would say there's a lot of things. One is I didn't feel like I needed to micromanage. Like, so I stopped researching it and I stopped
Mhm.
worrying about it and I just got focused on whatever else. Like, okay, so I just need logistically to get this plan. People who were talking to me before knew I was like super anxious. Like, so all that mental energy I was like able to let go of. I was able to accept my aftercare, without like feeling that bad about it. Like I did wind up going in public with a big Band-Aid on my head, and I still have you can still see my scar. I don't love
It's
it, but
beautiful. It's a beautiful scar.
but but I know that it's gonna go away, like, even the fact that I did videos on it, like, I'm raving about it because to me, it's such a powerful lesson, like, who would have thought? Like, before I was feeling, like, shame and embarrassment, I'm like, "Oh god, I'm gonna be disfigured." Now it's like, "Ah, well, I know that Doctor God Dowd has my back no matter what happens, like, he'll fix it," like, I don't have to worry about it, he'll fix it on the other side. Like, and I hope that that's what my clients feel like, but I think this is why we do the hard work to identify our expertise, which
Mhm.
is like expertise is the foundation of trust. Like you have the relevant expertise to solve my problems. The integrity is I believe you. That's why we put trust signals on our websites. Why we put testimonials. We're not doing it to brag. We're making clients feel trust. And I
Yes.
feel like this benevolence of purpose is like, don't just go into this business just to make money. Like do it because you care about people. Like it drives me crazy for purpose driven people who just are so purpose driven, meaning I'm connected to my methodology and that's all I see. But I don't see beyond of the impact I'm trying to have on other people. Like I'm not doing it because I see the change that I wanna make in the world. It's just about me and what kind of clients I can make, or how much money I can make, how many clients I could land rather than the downstream impact of like, there's a person on the other side. And I feel like that is where it's like, wow, this is about trust. And I feel like you're articulating, you're making me even more passionate about this because it is about trust.
Well, and, for me, you kind of brought it home to, what's the intended outcome. Now, for ulterior motives, this is not the intended outcome. This is sort of the extra added benefit. So the fact that you and I are here, quote unquote, let's just say we're in a room and we're talking about Dr. Dowd and Dr. Dowd is not present.
That's true.
So that's one of the things that you were willing to do as a result of the trust that you felt is to give positive word of mouth, tell people about the wonderful experience that you had, build up the reputation of Dr. Dowd. So I've been hearing this a lot lately in the media and in the session I was at yesterday about, do you have power when you're not in the room? And you do have power when people are saying positive things about you as a result of the experience that you created for them. So
Hmm.
that's kind of a great reason to do it, to build trust with others, to take these things that might seem like extra steps or, like, oh, that's additional discretionary, costs that we have to put on top of things. Well, it pays off.
But it began with the website and the clear messaging.
Hmm.
It began there, and I think, like, going back full circle to, like, when I look at your website now, like, you're leveled up as you move from Adam's Learning, where before you didn't even have your picture, like, anywhere close to the homepage. Like, now your picture's on the homepage, and it's like, "Well, why do you do this?" Like, I think now when I
Yeah.
look at your website, it just instills trust because I'm a person. It's like it drives me crazy when people don't have their pictures on the hero section who are consultants and coaches, because like you have to keep looking like, who are you? Who are you? Who are
Yeah.
you? But now like you have a great picture, warm, relatable image where you're looking like you're in good hands. You have the value proposition, like turn your strong managers into trusted executives.
Hmm.
You give them a plan step by step. Here's what you do. You have testimonials like right there. Like you make it easy. It's an easy button for somebody who's looking for what you have. And I think that trust, using your website, I think your website screams that trust.
I agree wholeheartedly. And I'm excited to
So,
get it out there and get people visiting it.
and I'm sure people are sitting there thinking like, okay, well, what's his website already? For crying out loud, you've mentioned his website multiple times. What's the address? What is his website?
The address is adamslearning.com.
And so for let's talk a little bit about like the people that you want to instill trust in. So it's service-based people who are trying to get to the next level, but they don't have the executive bench in order to do so. So let's use the three, the ability, the integrity, and the benevolence. Can you
Yeah.
speak a little bit about the ability, integrity, and benevolence of why your clients should trust you with that type of promise?
Uh, I would put it this way. I have decades of experience working in service industry organizations, and I understand how important it is in a service industry organization that the leader set the example for interacting with others. So, in a service industry organization, what makes them unique is that the frontline service providers are interacting directly with the customers. You and I are both ex-Disney people, so we learned very thoroughly how important it was to interact with the guests, to smile, make eye contact, answer their questions, to be a friendly presence. As we would have said back in the day, we didn't call it aggressively friendly, it got changed to assertively friendly. And in a service organization, if the leader is not upholding that by setting the example behind the scenes, then the cast members or employees are going to say, well, if the leader's not doing it, why should I do it? So it's important for leaders to take care of the culture behind the scenes that will allow for frontline service providers to go out and smile and make the guests and customers happy. So with that in mind, an understanding of why trust is important, kind of going back to what led me to get the doctorate in the first place was I was doing stakeholder-centered coaching, and we would regularly get feedback from the stakeholders where they would say, "I want to have a trusting relationship with my leader," and that kept coming back time and time and time again to the point where the leader started putting the word trust into their goals, and because it happened with such regularity, I was sort of compelled to think there's something more behind this ability to build trust. You can't just look at it at face value and assume that everybody knows what that means, because
Yeah.
depending on who you ask, they're going to say this is important to me with regard to trust, or something else is important to me with regard to trust. And by studying it, it clarified those three categories, such that the model, I mean, even those three categories are in the literature. The model that emerged for me has 10 dimensions, but essentially they are still within those three categories. And when you understand what contributes to trust, you also can understand what contributes to distrust and the things that leaders need to avoid. So I'll go back to something that was mentioned to me right after I graduated. I was presenting my findings to various groups, and I presented to a group of coaches. And at the end of my presentation, one of the coaches asked a question and said, JB, did you learn anything surprising? And I guess I could have taken that as an insult, because what I was sharing was I understand. If you look at it on the surface, it seems intuitively obvious that these are the things that you should do to build trust. But the reason that it's important to me is the things that are common knowledge are not common practice. So
Mm.
there are many leaders out there who think that they know how to build trust, but they are sort of breaking the rules and doing things that contribute to distrust. And in a distrusting environment, nobody's telling them, hey, if you just stopped doing this and replace that behavior with this other alternative behavior, you would get back on track for building trust with us. But if you're not having trusting relationships with your employees, they're going to be very reluctant to give you feedback. It can contribute to a toxic work environment. It contributes to turnover. And so all of these things kind of fall like dominoes. And so that's why I think feedback is so important. And that the coach helps facilitate the gathering of honest, helpful feedback. Did I digress
You
too
mean
far with my answer there?
no, and I like your little English accent lit that,
No,
little
my
little accent here.
affectation.
Yeah. That makes me think of something. And then we do need to wrap up as it relates to this particular episode, which I knew we could talk about forever, but it made me think about why, perhaps like the cohort is stronger and maybe something else to look at in terms of like the trust. Cause I think we put trust so much into the bucket around the behaviors between two people. And when you were talking about like what creates trust, I was picturing a lot of my employee engagement projects that I had consulted to. Some of the worst things that people do is they put like values, like mission, vision, values on the break room wall that people don't believe in. Like
Mm.
is not authentic. That they just kind of like these are aspirational things, but they're not true. Like it would be better to say, I just want to do double digit growth and that's it, for the sake of shareholder wealth, than to pretend that you have some other higher purpose because that creates a disconnect. So I think that there's other touch points that contribute to the environment rather than just how are people behaving. It's reasonable workloads. Are we being honest? So I think it's like let's take a more holistic look at everything. And I think when it comes to the branding part, I think for those who are listening and it's like, is my brand of integrity? I would say let's just go ahead and apply these three, help me out for the application. Number one is like audit all your touch points, not just from your discovery meeting on and not just from your client engagement on, everything else. So, I'd love to talk about the application as it relates to branding using these three things: the right person for the job, the integrity, believe that this person tells the truth and keeps their promises, and the benevolence is that you believe that this person has their best interests in mind. It seems like it would be beneficial to look at it and say, all right, to what degree am I instilling these kinds of trust factors in my brand? And I'd love to get your perspective. Like, what should people be looking for that says, yes, I'm instilling trust, or I'm actually, no, I'm distracting from trust?
Well, if you're critiquing the impressions that a website makes, I can tell you that this is what I've learned from working with you. In clarifying your ability, it's knowing how to articulate, this is the problem that you have, and here's how I help you solve it. That is addressing my ability. And so everything that you said about your physician having the right words on the website, sort of connecting with the thing that you were looking for, that's what you want to make sure that you have on your website. So if you are vague or if you're trying to please everybody by saying that you do everything, that is going to drive people away. This person doesn't know what they're good at. They're trying to please everybody. They might be just making this up, so I don't trust them. The
What
second
about
thing is
focusing
is
on the
about
methodology? Which one like, if somebody's just like, "Oh, I have a five-step process," but it's not in that context, how does that
right.
affect trust?
It greatly diminishes trust because you have to be very targeted and specific about here's the 5-step process that I have and here's how it solves your problem. If this is not your problem, then I'm not the right provider for you. But if it is your problem, I've done this many times, I have a track record, and kind of getting back to the integrity, the testimonials contribute to the integrity. It's that other people trust this person and that therefore they were satisfied and they believe that this person's telling the truth, so maybe I should believe that this person is telling the truth as well. And it may not come through on the website, although it might come through in a testimonial, but that first meeting that you have with the potential client is where you can establish the benevolence as well by taking an interest in them, asking the right questions, uh, expressing empathy, and showing that you understand what they're looking for.
I think you could show the benevolence on your website by virtue of specializing in what the person's problem is that you're there to solve. Like that communicates like I'm vested because I made my whole business and brand about this. But I
Yeah.
think also you could say, here's my why. Like I believe in the power of executive leadership and trusting cultures. Like I'm passionate about helping you because I want what you want. Or you could say, the empathy statements or something along those lines, or you just use the magic words like that, like, it's like, "Oh, you're a partner invested in your success." But I do think that that will get, broken is if you land work more as, like, a service provider or something transactional rather than, "I'm coming alongside you." So I think that that's where the positioning later on that's an easy thing to say. That's a much harder that's an easy one to break when you get into the client engagement if you're not positioning yourself as that partner.
Well, I exactly, that's what I would add in what I learned from working with you is to move beyond being an order taker to being a strategic partner. And so what that requires, and this is the hard part, is the willingness to say no. This is not
Uh,
the right fit. This is not the right contract for me. I'm not the right person for this gig. There's someone else that's better than me. You should go look for that person because I am in this lane and I'm not desperate to say yes. I think back to early in my career when I first started Adams Learning. I had a bunch of colleagues and advisors around me, and I was told, say yes to everything. Well, when you're young and hungry, that's what you need to do. But once you know what you're good at and what your expertise is, you don't have to say yes to everything anymore. You say yes to the gigs that are right for you, where you know you're going to add value for that client.
I learned early on when I was a consultant, when I was at Disney, we had Joel Henning came in, and he's the one who introduced me to my first approach to partnership setup. And he always said the only way that you can guarantee results is if your expertise is relevant for the situation, is timely, and there's a fit. And
Mhm.
that's the way that you can guarantee results. And if there's not relevance, timely, and fit, you can't. And it seems like when it comes to a trusting relationship, is you do need to take a beat and say, like, is this the right solution for this person? Like, I can't be a hammer looking for a nail because you
Mm.
can't create a trusted brand if you're just trying to be a hammer looking for the nail everywhere. Like, it's just
Yeah.
not going to work.
Yeah, exactly.
We can talk about this stuff forever, I know. And we have to wrap up the episode. Is there anything else that you want to tell me about your experience of leveling up your brand positioning, anything about trust in general, or anything as it relates to trust and branding? And I'm just not asking you the right question.
The only thing that I would like to say, Betsy Jordan, is the level of gratitude that I have toward you, not just for helping me with my positioning and the development of my website, but providing what I would call a comprehensive experience where I got to work with you, but I also got to work with a bunch of other really cool people to figure out how we can position ourselves in a marketplace to succeed and, add value for our clients by reaching more of the right clients. So, again, gratitude.
Heart, 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 heart. Wait, I
Yes,
got a heart.
likewise.
Heart, heart, heart. All going your way. Thank you. Um, Thank you so much for being on the show, JB. This has been amazing. I've been so excited to have this conversation, and the timing is perfect because I did want to ask about the trust and branding. That meant a lot to me, and all of your comments meant a lot to me. And as it relates to your business, I cannot wait to see where you flourish because I know that you're going to do amazing things. For those who are listening, thank you so much. I know this episode went on a little long, but I would encourage you to take a beat and take a look at your branding and how you're showing up. And know that when you're doing it, it's not about you. Like a lot of times people get anxious about branding. It's like, "Ah, I don't like talking about myself. And I don't like showing up. I'm more of a private person." And it's like, you know what? We're two introverts here. We're talking about not ourselves, but the value of what we're doing because we really care about helping other people. So you're doing this for what's on the other side, and it's building that trust. Imagine every one of your clients is in a vulnerable situation like I was in, where I had my face on the line, and it's not like, I'm, some spring chicken or anything, but I still have some good years left and I don't want to be disfigured, like I have my face on the line and it meant a lot to me and I was in a vulnerable state and having somebody do that. But your clients are in a vulnerable state. Every time they reach out to a consultant or coach, we do not appreciate what we're asking our clients to show us all their dirty laundry, to expose all of their fears and vulnerabilities so that they can take action to move into a better place. And so it's an act of service to build that trust with them at every single touch point because it's worth it for them, not for you and your own ego, but for the service that's behind it. So, anyway, I'll get off my little soapbox here. I hopefully you're all encouraged and motivated. If you all enjoyed the show, definitely rate and review it. If you want to work with me on your brand positioning and messaging, head on over to my website at www.betsyjordyn.com. If you are a service hospitality leader looking to level up your leadership, definitely reach out to JB. And I think that is it for now. Until next time, thanks so much for listening.